Hi everybody, I wanted to give you an update on how Lisa is doing. So we are on day 6 of being in the hospital. It is now Saturday the 19th and we went in last Sunday. And over the past few days since our last update, the situation has been both good and bad. In one aspect of it, on the bad news, let's just start with there. Our primary doctor is now on vacation, so we've switched to one of the doctors inside of the hospital. And in some cases, it's been a mixed bag of emotions. It's been good to have a new, fresh set of eyes looking at the situation and trying to help figure out what's going on. Some of the tests have been rerun just to verify that they were looked at, I don't want to say the appropriate way, but just to see if they're looked at differently this time around. Which anytime, if you know anyone that has cancer, anytime you have to run tests, it's a scary situation because you never know what you're going to find. You'd love to think that it's always positive news, but in a lot of cases, it's not. So you end up holding your breath and just kind of hoping for the best at that point. The good news with those tests, nothing new came back that was really alarming. It was pretty much the exact same information that we had seen before. But the problem with what exactly is wrong still persists. And we think at this point, she may have thrush. So on, the good and the bad side, we think there's sort of a speculation amongst, some of the nurses, some of the doctors, that it may be thrush, which if you don't know what that is, thrush is basically a yeast that sort of lives in your body all of the time. And your body tends to have its antibodies and fight it off. But when you have a weakened immune system, like cancer patients do, sometimes that fungus, that yeast, can sort of grow out of control and cause swelling in the throat, which Lisa has, a sore throat, which Lisa has, a fever, which Lisa had. She really hasn't had a fever in a few days. So there are a lot of symptoms that thrush tends to kind of say, yeah, these are the symptoms that she probably has. Now, the challenge with that is your body tends to give off the same symptoms for a lot of illnesses. And I think that's part of the reason why we couldn't necessarily tell you early on what was wrong with her. The other problem is we don't know to what extent she may have thrush, if she even has it at all, because part of the procedure to diagnose that is to run a camera down your throat and scope and see what is actually in there. And they can't do that because of how sore and how red her throat is and how swollen it is. So if they were to do that, it would actually cause a lot more harm. So we don't really know if that's the issue, which again is good and bad, because if we don't know exactly what it is, we don't know to the extent of how bad it could be. You could have a situation with a fungus where you end up in a septic situation, and that's not good either. So we're waiting to find out more on that. As far as Lisa's spirits, I want to thank everybody for sending in the messages, the text messages, the Facebook comments, calling us, whatever the case may be, because early on in the week, one of our biggest concerns was that Lisa didn't seem to have the spirit to fight the way she needed to. And that's me. That's not everybody. I expect a lot out of Lisa in these situations, probably more than I should. But having that mentality to keep fighting is something that she's got to have. We've all got to have to make it through this. And after a couple days of kind of feeling sorry about being back in the hospital and scared about what's going on, which all completely understandable, I really had some concerns. I didn't see the fight, but I think through your messages, I think through just love and care from her family and friends, Lisa's back. She was able to finish some of her soft foods the other day and went for a small walk yesterday, which was a huge improvement. She has gotten out of the bed and is sitting in a recliner that's in the room. So a lot of good news there that mentally Lisa's back. So that's probably the biggest huzzah out of all of it. I want to think Holly has flown down from New York to sort of help out and be there and be that sounding voice in the room when I can't be, or if Lisa needs that sounding voice and not super aggressive sometimes. And as well as, my parents, I know a lot of friends have sent additional messages, and then to our kids who have been tremendous through all of this. We've had to ask each other a lot of tough questions and focus on some things that you, as a family, you don't want to focus on, but it's the reality where we are. The girls were able to go the other day and stay for about an hour. So right now the hospital is only 2 visitors per day total. But we were able to work with the nurses and able to get them in at least for an hour to kind of see how she was and ask her some questions and just love her. Because everybody needed that. It took a little bit to warm up to some of the equipment and all of the stuff that's there, but they were good. One of the other questions that we get is, when is she getting out? And the reality is, we don't know. I think one of the toughest things through cancer, and there's a lot, number one is insurance. If you're ever wondering, it's insurance and billing. That's the biggest problem with cancer, is that we're not structurally set up to support people that need regular help in our healthcare system. But I digress. One of the other big things is it's a constant up and down. It is a constant roller coaster. And do I feel positive? Does Lisa feel positive about some of the information from yesterday and how she's feeling now? Absolutely. There's a lot of positivity there. But as any cancer patient can tell you, the good news can immediately be washed out by the bad news seconds later. As I mentioned before, we don't know what the real diagnosis is. We don't know to the scale of what it truly is. So while we feel good now, 10 minutes from now we could get a phone call, or the doctor could come in with a completely different perspective, and we're back to square one. I think, guys, the reality is, yesterday we were having conversations and tears about wills and next steps and life past all of this. And you just have to have those conversations. I mean, we've talked, it's beneficial sometimes that we know we have time, that we have time to focus on it, and it's not a tragic ending that just leaves everybody wondering. But those are conversations that you have to have. I'm getting asked by the kids, what is life without mommy? And those are not fun questions. So, I think we try to stay positive, and you try to push through it, and, getting Lisa to be happy and focused on what she needs to do is primary number one. But the rest of it is just being positive. So that's an update with Lisa. As we know more, we'll let you know. I want to thank everybody for their well wishes, and keep them coming, because, while Lisa needs them, everybody else needs them as well. I appreciate all of them. I appreciate those that you reached out to me, whether it was about me or the girls. So we do appreciate it. And as soon as we know more, we will let you know. Thanks. Hi everybody. So as I was editing this video, and as I mentioned in the video, news changes minute by minute. And we do have a bit of good news to share from this morning's update from the doctor. So they had scanned inside her lungs just to make sure that the cough wasn't cancer related. And the good news is they do not see any cancer inside her lungs. The lymph nodes that are in there are swollen, and that may be why the cough persists, but there are no cancerous cells in there, which is excellent news. The other thing is her white blood cells are continuing to grow, which is good. The percentage is increasing, as well as the bacteria that they were seeing in her body as well is starting to decrease. So the good news is it looks like the medication is working, and they are trying to find something that we can get her to eat that she will actually eat. So we may be bringing some soup over later, but they're trying to get her to eat, and at least it's a picky eater. So good luck to them. If they can figure that out, by all means, feel free to share that information. So take the good news with the bad. The bad news is only temporary, and good news is what keeps you going. So thanks again for everybody and listening to the update, and we'll let you know more as we find out. Bye.